Welcome to Secura Law Experience. I'm Luis Elizalde, founder of Secura Law. I'm here with
Stephanie de la Millar.
Perfect. We have a new episode today. I think it's a very interesting episode, an idea that Stephanie had today, that is have a will or not will.
Will or not will.
Yeah,
no?
exactly. Exactly. Sounds very interesting. I think normally as a Mexican, we don't think about that. Our culture is not like, hey, we need a will.
No.
I already have a house. So
We have Dia de Muertos. We know that we always will come back.
yeah, exactly.
So we don't need a will.
No, it's something culture, but at the end, thinking in our clients, foreign clients with assets in Mexico, and also in us, at the end, it's an important thing. However, if they have the foreign that have properties here and they have trust, do you think they need a will?
Do they need a will? Obviously, we have to analyze case by case. But strictly, if you are the person that invested or is going to invest in a property here in Mexico, one sole property, real estate, and you are buying through the trust, you don't need a will. Because you are leaving instructions to the trustee bank about how and what to do in case that you pass away or you have a legal incapacity.
Yes, also, exactly. Yeah, that's something really good with the trust. We are not going to speak a lot of the trust, but or fideicomiso, that's a good thing that we have with the fideicomiso, that you already in that moment appoint your substitute beneficiary. So if something happened to you, there you go.
Yes.
And it's very simple, as soon as you have your death certificate, not you exactly, your substitute beneficiary have the death certificate, go with Secura Law and then with the trustee bank, and we create everything, or we work with everything, and I'm thinking 1 month, the property is already
40 days maybe.
Yeah, it's already in your hands, on your titles, everything, so nothing to worry about with that. But what happens if they not only have property, they have a car, they have bank accounts, that kind of things? Do you think is necessary?
Yes, that will be a totally different scenario. If
Okay.
you're part of your time you are living in Mexico, that it's your plan to come for a few months, so you are opening your own bank account, your personal bank account. Maybe you buy a car or, I don't know, any other assets that you have. Maybe you have a timeshare.
Business. If you have a business,
If you have a business, if you created a corporation and you have assets or shares in there or both, in that case, you will need a will.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes it's something that they forgot, they don't really care about that. And
because I think they are relying on the fact that they have a will on the States or in the country that they come from.
That's good, because if they appoint the asset that they have because if they appoint the assets in the will that they have, let's say Canada or US, it works here. But of course they need to get apostille, translation to Spanish and everything, but it works. But from my point of view, for example, for a car, what they can do? If they have a will in the United States, they have to get the apostille. Then
It will be a challenge.
Yeah, it is. As soon as I made the question, okay, Stephanie, you can respond.
No,
All yours.
I even can't respond either.
No, I think they have to get the apostille of that will, then the translation in Mexico with a certified or sworn translator. Then with that document, for example, if the car is here in Quintana Roo, they need to go to Primera Sur between 10 and 15. And they can show the documents. I'm pretty sure that they're going to tell you what to do, because you already have all the legal documents saying that the car is going to be part of your will or is part of your will. So I think they can do something like that. It's a little tip, a little light at the end of the tunnel to know what you can do in case.
I wonder how they will react. I mean, the personnel or the staff at the office, at the municipality office, when they see all these documents, because I think they are not familiar at all. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even though a foreign will works, I will recommend to keep it simple for your loved ones, for the persons that you will inherit, and create a will for all the other assets that you have aside of the real estate that you own through that trust.
And you can do it during the month of September. In September, the will makes sense, the cost to pay. Because I think the last year it was 1,200, I think. 1,200 pesos. Very cheap. If you do it right now, like in February, January, or something like that, I think nowadays it's around 9 to 12,000 pesos. So it's a huge difference if you do it in September. I think also October. I'm not sure.
Yes,
Yes?
it usually it extends till
To
October.
Okay. So you have 2 months to get your will in Mexico, in which you can establish not exactly the properties or the real estate that you have, because you already have a trust. But if you don't have a trust, you can put everything, or you can establish everything there. So that could be a really, really good option. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's really easy because you have a free will, which means that you can establish any conditions that you want. Even though if you say that it will be for my future assets, I don't know what will be, but all my future assets that I acquire in Mexico, that will be also included.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So it is really freely to create the will. And it's easy if you are leaded and assisted by an attorney, whether it's us or the notary, but preferably us.
Yeah.
So we can assist regarding how to create your will in a very a common sense matter, and that everyone can understand what you exactly mean, because there is a lot of stipulations that you can put, but definitely need some guidance so you and your family have the certainty about what it's your will.
Yeah. So, like, long story short, the best option to have a will here in Mexico. Worst case scenario that you don't have it, you can do something with the will that you have in your country. But of course, it's gonna be a challenge, you know. So that's something that, from my point of view, okay, do the will. If you're on September, October, do the will.
Yes, it doesn't take longer. It will take you about 5 days to get your will. It's low price in September and October. So, and it's a matter that it's really simple. It's just say how you want to divide your assets, to who, and we write it down.
I think we have to repeat this on more closer to September, just
to remind them.
Yeah, exactly. And in the same thing, talking about the assets, I think we have two other options, items to speak. One is the one that you said before we start the podcast. It was the bank account for foreigners, and the other a corporation. What they can do, you know. So the first thing, let's try to go with the bank account, because as a tourist, you cannot open a bank account. You have a option that is like the exchange rate file, in which some banks gave you the option to send money to the bank and they say it's gonna be at your name. It's not bad, it's good, it works, but at the end it's an exchange rate file, meaning that you're gonna send, let's talk about $1,000 to that file. That file is at your name, and it's gonna be in the bank only 30 days. So you have 30 days to come back or came to Mexico and take that money out. But you're not gonna take 1,000 US. You're gonna take the exchange rate. That's the reason of exchange file. That's the thing that you can open, but at the end, it's not exactly a bank account. Looks like, but not because you sign contract, you sign everything.
Exactly. They even give you a debit card that you can use
Right.
inside of the country. And I think you can also use it abroad. But I think the main point of this is that it doesn't create a score for you. If you are looking to have the financial banking system in Mexico open to all the options that the banking system offers, whether it's a loan, credit cards, anything, this doesn't goes to your records. To have a records in your score of credit, you need to open an account, and then after some months maybe or weeks, it depends how much you put in your bank account, the bank will start offering you credit cards, loans, and etc. But it's very important that you know that these files are super good and I think are useful, but doesn't create a score for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. It's not something bad. I start speaking about that because it's not bad, but just to be sure that they not taking that as a bank account. It's
Exactly.
something similar, but it's not bank account. So tourists cannot open bank accounts. But what happened with the person that already have resident? Is a difference between temporary or permanent, or both can open a bank account?
Both. As
Okay.
long as you have your card, you will be open you will be able to open your bank account.
But it's nowadays with the crazy things, it's not crazy, but all the regulation that Mexico are applying right now that I think at the end as an attorney is good, but at the end also is a lot of bureaucracy. You have your resident, okay, but together with that resident, you have a CURP. Like it's not the social security number, but it's something that is related to all the people or to all the person that lives in Mexico. So you have your resident, CURP. Do you think you need the tax ID, the RFC, or to open the bank account? I think so.
Currently, yes,
Right.
they need it.
Yeah.
Because they have to trace how much you are putting in the Mexican system, financial system. So at some point, obviously you have to put, if you are getting all your income abroad, you have to establish that when you create your tax ID. Or if you are retired, also to establish and point very well that you are retired. So all the income that it comes to your account, you can demonstrate to the Mexican IRS. No, it's not an income that belongs to Mexico. It's an income that belongs to another country, and I can prove it.
The thing is that let's try to keep the idea of the bank account, but I'm thinking right now in something that happened, a question that I have, because the tax ID, bank accounts, Airbnb, Airbnb, they are saying that they're going to retain the taxes. That is around 30 to 35%. So now the person that are buying real estate or the client that are buying real estate, they are saying, hey, if I want to put VRBO or Airbnb, the rental vacation or something, now my income is going to be less 30%. But they are thinking, hey, I read in Google that if I have the tax ID, I don't have to pay that. No, it's not that you don't have to pay it. Means that the Airbnb or VRBO, they are not going to retain that taxes. The obligation to retain is not going to be any more from that apps. That apps? Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be your own obligation. So that's the train idea that I have. Because you have a bank account, you open a bank account, now you need tax ID to open the bank account. So you already save one problem, or you already solved one problem with the Airbnb. The thing is that all the money that came from the Airbnb go to this bank account. That means that is already, because in Mexico we don't have bank secrecy. Bank secrecy? Is that a word?
Yes, it's we have it, but the IRS, no,
At the end.
you cannot hide anything from the IRS. In the past,
Exactly.
The banks even want to have this. Yes, it's confidential. It's they cannot.
Give information to the IRS of Mexico, but today the IRS open. If, of course, they cannot go directly to the bank account. They request information to the bank, But that's the thing, if you have an Airbnb, don't you think if you have a tax ID, you are not obligated to pay taxes? It's totally the other side. You have to pay the taxes. The huge difference is that Airbnb is not going to retain it. So you have to consider that if you want to have or you want to live here in Mexico, open the bank account, tax ID, resident, CURP, everything. Okay, makes sense that you put everything. The Airbnb, you hire an accountant, you make deductions. Okay, makes sense. But if you are not living here and you only buy that property,
yes, it doesn't make sense. It's a lot of work. I was talking with a client yesterday about it. It is a lot of work. You have to be super organized because you have to put every expense that you have in your accountant records, and you have to create facturas, and the facturas are really specific. It's not like in US.
No, we're going to another. But it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, it is not like, okay, you are getting a ticket and that will be your invoice. No. You have to create an invoice through the platform or to the IRS Mexican website so you can have your factura real that can be deductible from taxes after the IRS reviews that complies with all their criteria and you are applying it in the right way.
Yeah, that's something that is really, really hard for the foreigners, for the Americans or Canadians to understand that, because our system works in IRS. I think sometimes, or I believe that is kind of more aggressive than in the US or Canada because of that and because of the facturas. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you an example. If you go to Home Depot and you buy a shower head, something, and you pay with your credit card, okay, all good. And you give that ticket to make deduction in your taxes, it's not gonna work. That doesn't matter. For the IRS, is that you didn't have that deduction. You need to pay your credit card, get the ticket. In the ticket, you're gonna see the number. That number goes to the website. In the website, you need to get the factura, and the factura, as Stephanie said, has to be very specific. Hey, this is for the business. Okay, so if you put business and it's a shower head, not make sense. So it's a personal. Exactly. That conversation is more about with an accountant. We know a little bit, but it's kind of crazy. As you said, you need to be very organized. The administration of all the things that you have for only one property, and give the tax ID to Airbnb. I think it sounds crazy. It's a lot of work. But if you are here, come to Mexico. You can live here really good.
Yes, exactly.
The food is amazing.
First of all. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I mean, there is actually a lot of things that you can deduct from taxes. For example, if you are living here permanently and you have kids, the scholar fees that you have to pay are deductible from taxes partially. So make
the mortgage.
The mortgage.
You have a mortgage? Of course, after you open the bank account and you have money there and moving, they're going to give you a loan to buy a house, and the mortgage is also deductible.
Mm-hmm. Partially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
not
you have
totally.
to expect that it's partially, and you have to make your statements every month. And in April, I think it's April or May.
Mm-hmm.
May
Between
is the
that
deadline,
month.
no?
Yeah.
To make your final statement, and after the IRS reviews, they analyze and determine if they will give you some money back or you have to pay more taxes. It will depend on how your accountant records are. Usually they give you back some.
If you are good, if you are really, really, really good at organizing everything, you don't have problems to request your money back or taxes back. The thing is that if you are not very sure that everything is okay and you request that money back, for sure next day you're going to have an audit. No, for sure. I don't want to freak you out. But at the end, as I said,
the
IRS in Mexico...
nightmares about Mexican IRS.
No, the IRS in Mexico sounds crazy. But at the end, if you have an accountant, a really good accountant, you are organized, you can do a lot of things. At the end, if you pay taxes, That's it. No, not big problem.
Yes, paying taxes and be organized. I think it's the key to have a healthy financial system and tax system on your end. So at the end, you can see the benefits. They were actually asking me as an example of the things that are small details that make the difference. They were saying, okay, we are creating this Mexican corporation. We will run our business. Our business is service. So we will need to, for example, invite some clients to have a meal or a dinner. That will be an expense.
Yeah, but not alcohol.
See, there is the small detail. If there is alcohol involved,
no.
won't be the
So if you put in your ticket or in your factura, the restaurant gives you a factura in which established there is a alcohol involved, that factura is not deductible. So you can, at the beginning of the meal, you have to request to your waiter, hey, put one check for alcohol and one check for the food. You know, if you have... Yeah, exactly. It's a hack. If you have that, for sure, and request the factura for the food, and it's 100% deductible.
Yeah. You see?
And
tax hack.
And as you said, for example, sometimes you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna have something for the company. I'm gonna do a meal or a trip. If you have a trip, has to be by the Mexican law away from the headquarters. I think it's around 50 or 100 kilometers. That means that, for example, if you're in Quintana Roo, you need to go to maybe Veracruz or Guadalajara to have a trip, business trip, to make it totally deductible. So that's little things that you can ask, of course, to your accountant, but as Stephanie said, it's another hack.
Yes, it is a very good one. Actually, I didn't know.
Yeah, the problem is that sometimes you say, hey, I'm going to have a trip, a business trip for the company, and you go to the... Now, Will, that lives in Quintana Roo, you think, I can go to an hotel here and rent a space and make the symposium or the meeting and everything. Doesn't work. That's not deductible. You can get the factura, but at the end, it's not going to work. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, even the clothes, no? Like you are trying to deduct clothes because you are, it's an expense. You are using it to go to work. Here it's quite a challenge because we don't dress like in the cities with a tie, you know, more formal. So for us, it's a challenge to actually prove that the clothes are for working because we use very casual.
Kind of. It's not a suit, exactly. But the thing is that in clothes, you have the normal uniform that all the hotels use.
Yeah.
That is terrible. To say the truth, it's terrible. But also, how can I explain this in an example? If you have, as an attorney, okay, you can buy a
shoes.
Shirt. Shoes. No. Yeah, shoes. Okay, shoes. And there is shoes of 12,000 pesos, 15,000 pesos. Of course, you can get a factura, but the SAT is going to say, okay, it's not deductible because it's too expensive. To work, you need a shoes, normal shoes, about 3,000 pesos or 2,000 pesos, you know? So that's the thing that you're saying. It's a challenge to do that. Gifts are deductible. But what kind of gifts? If you give a watch, a very expensive one, a Rolex, it's not deductible. But it could be deductible depending on the situation, but has to be very specific. It's crazy. You can deduct a watch, but for example, if you are talking that you are making a business, I don't know, of $10 million, and in that $10 million to give the gift because your earning is about $1 million. Okay,
makes sense.
Exactly. But you have to prove that you received that $1 million to give a gift of 10,000 US.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It makes sense because at the end you are paying more taxes, and the SAT is gonna say, okay, 10,000 is okay, no worries, but give me the tax of $1 million. You know, that kind of thing makes sense. But you have to document everything. Again, this is an accountant talking, but it's that little thing that we know.
Yes, by
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, and you also said that talking about almost finishing about the bank account, will, and business. If you have a business and have a will and have tax ID, everything is gonna be more simple if you have everything in Mexico.
Totally. Yes. And in the time to time, I think you will start considering yourself as a Mexican and you will see all the benefits, not only the food, a lot of benefits.
But the food is the most. But the food is really good. And so thank you so much. I hope that you have more questions. Of course, if you want to send us an email with your question, and we will be glad to respond, answer
Of
it.
course.
And it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.